Hello, and welcome to our virtual annual discipline meeting for the 2023-2024 year. For those who may not know me, I'm Dane Lamont, the School Partnership Specialist for Penn Highlands Dual Enrollment Program. During our fall 2023 semester, we resumed our in-person ACE discipline meetings at the Penn Highlands Richland campus. There, our college liaisons were able to hold live sessions with our ACE instructors to discuss specific topics related to the disciplines that you teach. While we understand that it is not always possible for teachers to attend the live meetings, these discussions were recorded so those absent can gain the benefit of the event. Please enjoy the recording of your annual discipline-specific activity, and we look forward to working with you in the fall and hope you can join us in the next ACE discipline meeting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mandy Percinski, and I am an instructor of health science here at Penn Highlands. And I am also an ACE liaison for health science as well. And I am sharing a PowerPoint presentation with you today. Okay, so again, I said I'm a health science instructor at Penn Highlands and the ACE liaison. The topic I chose for LAF 111 or health and wellness is body awareness. I think that is a pretty big topic that we focus on in health and wellness. And the students are very responsive to this lesson. And I hope I prepared this in a way that you can use some of the resources. I have a homework assignment here. I also have the screening form that we will talk about as well. And then also several strategies and different assessments that we performed in class that the students really liked and helped to engage them in lecture as well. So we'll talk about the signs and symptoms associated with body awareness, and the students will perform their own self-assessment. I have that metric tool, which I mentioned I'd share with you, and some other information that we go a little bit more in greater detail than the book on the information provided in the book as well. So a brief summary, I talked about the body awareness already. We will review the concept of proprioception and kinesthesia and how they are comparable, they're similar, and how they are different as well. But they both are very important as related to body awareness. We have to understand both concepts to understand our bodies. Then we'll talk about the visual and the vestibular system and how that kind of relates to proprioception. And sensory integration, signs and symptoms of body awareness, which I mentioned, and the self-assessment tool, which I will provide. And in class, I have resources, and I did have the students actually complete these exercises in class. Some of them are a little bit more responsive to others. But nonetheless, I have the resources here for you with the links provided to the videos that I have used and a brief overview as well of what we practiced in class. So without further ado, what is body awareness? Essentially, awareness of movements that the body can perform. So this would include things like walking, jogging, running, even bending and turning are all different movements. But this is in a way that any system can actually relay information to the brain to contribute to our body awareness. So sensory information is absolutely critical for physical activity. We have to interpret visual cues. We have to see things. We have to be able to hear things. If a ball is being, thrown our way, maybe we hear the step that comes with it, or the throw of the pitch, or we also have the sense of touch. The perception of the movement as well is key. Our body is able to tell the difference between pressure and pain, and also stretching. And the concept of proprioception versus kinesthesia, proprioception, is the sense of position. So we're talking about awareness of movement or your body posture, even equilibrium. It changes as it relates to the body specifically, whereas kinesthesia is a little bit different. That actually refers to the ability to perceive the extent, the direction, or the weight of the movement itself. So we'll talk about this a little bit further here in the up-and-coming slides. So proprioception is the ability to know where your limb is in space. So in order to do that, we have to have a way or a pathway to understand where the movement is coming from. So that's the job of our sensory receptors, or also known as proprioceptors. And where are these located within your body? These can be in your muscles, they can be in your tendons, in your joints, and they can also be in fascia. So the fascia is that thin connective tissue that surrounds every organ and tries to keep it all in place, right? So this can be in the blood vessels, the bone, nerve fibers, all of that. So it's essentially the connective tissue that keeps it in place. So this is also another place, in addition to the muscles and tendons and joints, where these sensory receptors are found. And what do? They actually relay information to the brain about the joint position. So they create the communication loop or the feedback loop. I'm going to have you close your eyes. Are you able to identify if you're standing or sitting? Absolutely, you are. You can do that effortlessly, and it's because of the pathway of communication that's established by our proprioceptive input and sensory information that permits you, meaning your body, to interpret the difference. So you essentially can move without being able to observe the specific body area to move. You do not need to look at your feet to know that you're walking. You get up and go and get an item or retrieve an item or go for a walk. And you do not need to watch your legs to know that they're moving. You, in fact, know that they're moving, right? We're aware of where that limb is, where extremity is in space. So I found this illustration that kind of illustrates the point. We'll talk about kinesthesia here in a minute, but proprioception is illustrated here. My foot is in front of me, and kinesthesia is actually the movement portion of it, right? I'm moving forwards. I also have a pretty great resource through Khan Academy. It's a YouTube video. I'm going to stop my screen share here and see if I can successfully pull this up through YouTube. Bear with me here. Looks like we're good. And I'm going to play this video for you. Again, this is through Khan Academy. This was created by Ronald Sayuni. I apologize for mispronouncing the name correctly. This is not my video, but nonetheless, a great way to illustrate this concept even further. Okay. Okay. So that video particularly, I really enjoyed. I found that the students were able to relate to that as well, especially for the visual learners. Let me see if I can, there we go. Okay. So again, we're talking about kinesthesia here as well. So kinesthesia aligns with the movement component, and it also uses feedback from the proprioceptors as well. But the big difference between the two here is this is muscle memory. So essentially, if you are doing repetitive movements over and over, and with practice, you can actually perform the task which you are trying to achieve. For example, a baseball hitting a bat or performing a cartwheel. With repetitive motions, you will actually be able to complete that coordinated movement. So some commonalities, excuse me, between the two then, with kinesthesia and proprioception, is they are inferring movement and position, essentially. And they also are talking about where the body is in its relation to space, but they are essentially different. Proprioception is concerned with the position specifically of the body, whereas kinesthesia is concerned more about the movement. It's getting that movement aligned with the task at hand, such as hitting the baseball, performing or having the cartwheel, or throwing the ball, things like that. Proprioception includes a sense of balance as well, where kinesthesia does not include balance at all. So adding a little bit more about the visual and vestibular system here, your brain receives valuable sensory cues from the visual and vestibular systems. So the visual system, if you stand and close your eyes, you may notice that it's harder to keep your balance than if your eyes were opened, right? Because we're using our visual cues there. We're seeing through our eyes. So if you eliminate information from your visual system, you are now relying solely on input from the other systems to tell your body where you are, right? Or the vestibular system itself is where the vestibular system itself is a little bit more complex, but for purposes of this class, we will speak to the organs within the inner ear that have a sense of head position, they sense motion and spatial orientation as well. And also, the vestibular system focuses on movement, posture, and balance, or we know that as equilibrium. So this up and coming slide here illustrates this concept pretty well. So it speaks to movement of the body as it relates to proprioceptive signals and how they're needed for interpretation of vestibular input. So the signal itself, the vestibular signal then is to turn your head. Then indeed we do turn our heads, right? Because we are following that established pathway and we can turn our head through proprioception. Same thing if you were told to turn your waist. The vestibular signal would come from the brain there, and then you would have the trunk proprioception, the interpretive movement of that. Same thing if you are turning your bodies. This was a fantastic illustration as well, and that was from a journal article for kinesthetic inputs with neuroscience in the 21st century. So sensory integration then is also another important aspect when we're talking about our body awareness as well as a whole, right? The concept as a whole. All the information received is processed in the brain. This assists with our sense of body position, our ability to know what our body is feeling and thinking and moving, right? In continuously processing internal and external cues to navigate through space as well. So essentially, when we perform a new task, or a complex new task, it's going to require practice for us to remember, or our body speaking to us, to remember the input, right, that comes in, and then therefore achieving the movement. So complex tasks take more time and more practice. And this can actually be a little bit overwhelming for the body, but over time, with repetition, it requires less mental work because our body learns the movement and we can actually perform the tasks very well. So, what are some signs and symptoms of body awareness problems? How do you know that you need attention, or how do you know that you're not aware of body awareness? Well, you will experience balance changes or challenges, excuse me, such as falling or even like clumsiness, like bumping into things, tripping over your feet, maybe having trouble with skipping and galloping if you're told to do so, like mimicking those kinds of movements. And also trouble with gross motor skills. On the left side of your screen here, the gross motor skills are listed. I feel sometimes we overlook very simple gross motor skills and that we might have some problems with, or maybe we know we're not coordinated, right? But what does that actually mean? It means that we don't have very good body awareness. There are some strategies that we can use to improve that. So this illustration here is provided by the Cleveland Clinic. And I think it's a very fantastic illustration of all the various gross motor skills offered, depending upon the different age ranges of people as well. So you can see that there are little things like jumping for a child and throwing and catching a ball to bending over and running as an adult. And so very simple activities such as swimming or even walking is a little bit more challenging for some people than others. That's why you see this mainly diagnosed in children because they aren't able to perform those gross motor skills. So there's a little bit more of a heightened awareness to that when they're younger. So body awareness is a form of mindfulness. So how do we improve our body awareness while we take better care of ourselves? We maximize our exercise time and minimize the risk of injury. The more in tune we are with our bodies, the better it functions. So, what can we do to improve body awareness? Yoga is fantastic. Meditation, massage, Pilates can all help strengthen our muscles and movement. In turn, we're becoming more aware of what our body is doing. So, what activities can you do to improve your body awareness today? I had the students perform a self-assessment. I will stop my screen share here and show you the assessment piece itself. And all of these resources will be provided, so you can use them if you so choose in your lecture. You make sure it's up. It looks like it is. So this is a body awareness questionnaire that I had the students complete and fill out in class. And they were very responsive to this. Now, I adapted a couple of the questions, I believe questions 7 and 8, with very simple modifications, but the source is offered or from Shields and Mallory. It's the Body Awareness Questionnaire, Reliability and Validity, and it's actually from the Journal of Personality Assessment. And when I'm performing research on this, like looking for available self-assessments, this was the one that was most commonly used throughout practice over and over. So it goes over very simple assessments that students will maybe even do, every day or, within the current day or even in the morning of. And essentially the students have to review the statements and use the tool that's provided. So a number 7 scores is something that's very true of me, and number 1 is not at all true of me. So essentially they can compute their total score. When they're done, the highest total score is 126, meaning that they have great body awareness. Most students do not achieve that score. But some of the questions that I like to focus on here, it says, I notice differences in the way my body reacts to various foods. I can always tell when I bump myself whether or not it'll become a bruise. This one usually gets students like, oh, what? I never knew like how I received that bump on my elbow. What? How do I know how I got that? Well, this is an indicator that we might not be paying as close attention to our bodies as what we realize. So that one I tend to get a lot of feedback on. I know in advance when I'm getting the flu, and telling and identifying, like, you know when you're getting sick because of how your body feels. Are you more tired? Do you have a fever? Are you getting a funny sense of smell or taste or things like that your stomach feels off, that you're able to identify that within yourself. So that's a good conversation piece as well. And then there's also one that talks about sleep here. There we are, number 8. I accurately predict what time of day I accurately predict what time of day a lack of sleep will catch up with me. I thought that was an interesting conversation piece too, because most students stated in the afternoon that they need an energy drink or something like that, or coffee or whatever. So that was a good conversation piece as well. There seems to be a best time for me to go to sleep at night. That was various within the students. We were talking about different things that's based upon activities and such, but nonetheless, they were very responsive to this assessment piece, and that'll be provided for you if you want to use that as well. So let me hop back here to the PowerPoint. There we go. There we are. So there's 18 total questions, and I told the students to score yourself honestly. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you learn where you can improve and use these strategies for the remaining portion of your time here at Penn Highlands, or maybe even your life. If you can adapt and answer these questions honestly and then perform some exercises and things to help improve your body awareness, it'll only help you in the future. Okay, so we discussed our overall scores as a group, which was good conversation and a good way to apply the concept. Let me see here if I can move past. There we are. Okay. So the next couple strategies that I used also help to improve body awareness, such as breathing exercises. I will not do this, show this video here, but you have the resource here for you. I will tell you, we did this in class. Initially, there was some pushback from some of the students, but I will tell you, as a person leading this, we did not watch the YouTube video. I provided the YouTube resource for the students that I have in my online class. But I used a brief overview of what was offered in the YouTube video to provide this outline here for you. But I will tell you, as we walked through this, I made all the students close their eyes so they couldn't see if one student was not performing or the other. You know how that can be sometimes. But I read through this, and I will tell you, there was a change in the atmosphere of the room when we were done with these deep breathing exercises. You could see that there was a peacefulness. It was very calm. And even the students commented about how effective this breathing exercise was in their journal articles, or their discussion posts later on. But nonetheless, this is a simple breathing, deep breathing exercise. I had the students place their one hand on their chest and one on their belly, and then had them close their eyes and take a deep breath in and out. But the whole purpose is to feel your chest rise and fall. The deeper the breath, you feel your chest rise and fall. And you do this very simplistic, like not very simply, don't rush it. And actually focus on breathing. And I had them do this a couple times while we were in class. And mindful breathing is a great way to take your attention away from the outside world and improve your awareness of your body as well. So that was one successful strategy. The next one I had the students perform is the body scanning exercise. Now, I only focused on one extremity. So as you can see here, I have listed start with your hand and visualize your fingers and then move your way up. You can use this body scan exercise at nighttime, specifically before you go to bed. And research has proven that it actually encourages relaxation of the whole body and it promotes a deeper sleep. So if you're able to essentially turn all of your, visualize all of your different body parts starting at your toes and working your way up and actually like watching them glow and turning them off per se, this will help to improve quality of sleep, which also helps you become more aware of your body too, because you're focusing on each specific area. So the purpose of the body scanning exercise, let me move this so I can see my screen. There we go. Okay. I had the students close their eyes. Again, we focused on one extremity. So I chose the arms. I figured that was the easiest while in class. But you imagine the part of your body is glowing, and you focus on each part one at a time. And you're looking at your body from the outside. So you start with your hand. I have the students close their eyes. You can even close your eyes if you'd like. And you visualize one of your fingers, one by one, glowing. I gave the students 30 seconds to do this. And then I moved on to the palm. I advanced it to 60 seconds here. I just had a stopwatch in front of me. And I moved on to the wrist. Your wrist is now glowing. I advanced to the forearm, then to the elbow and the shoulder. And again, I started out with 30 seconds and I moved to 60, but I had the students open their eyes, and we performed that as just on one extremity, but essentially you can move to your feet and work through your entire body. I would recommend when you're starting this, or if you teach the students to do this specific activity, if they're in bed while lying down, they start with their toes. So tips of their toes, then their actual foot itself, then the back of the foot, then the moving up to the lower portion, like your shin, your knee, your thigh, and moving up, and then visualizing all of those areas glow. Again, the YouTube resources here, which is fantastic if you would like to use that for other reference too. The students in my online environment stated that this exercise helped them the most for sleep, and it helped them become more in tune with their body because they were actually focusing on the specific area, and they really had great success, reported great things with this too. This is a balance exercise, so a great way of applying the concept of proprioception and kinesthesia, but proprioception specifically, right? Because kinesthesia does not focus on balance, so proprioception. So the balance exercise here, we're standing on one foot, and you can see how long you can stay there. I did make the students stand up when we did this together. We had a couple laughs and a couple people that had really good balance too. I was surprised by that. So then I had them switch to their other side. So if they started with their right foot, then they moved to their left. And then I told them to try balancing with their eyes closed. So the purpose of that was it was a little bit more challenging, right? They couldn't stay on their foot as long as they could when they, in comparison to when they had their eyes open, were able to stand on the right side and the left. But this was also another interesting way to just apply the concepts of what we talked, to see how and what we talked about in class and how in tune they are with their own bodies. Then I asked them these questions when they were done, and we had a class discussion. Do you have the same stability on each side? Was it easier for you to stand on your right foot or your left? And then we talked about, are you right-handed or left-handed? Like, do you tend to favor the right side of your body and things like that? So that was also very interesting as well. Again, those exercises that we talked about with yoga and Pilates, and that will help with balancing as well. And I have the resource for the balance exercise here if you should choose to use this as well. I also did this symmetry exercise, so you pay attention to the balance of the right and left sides of your body. I had them stand with their hips width apart, close their eyes, and shift their weight from right to left. And I asked if they felt that one side was tighter than others. And do you feel like you move your body the same way on each side? I would actually recommend, if you are going to use these exercises, to do the sense of symmetry first and then do the previous one that I had mentioned as well, because this would be a great introduction to the other exercise. So I made the distinct point during this exercise for symmetry that many people have side dominance, and that actually predisposes them to muscle aches and injuries later on. And these are the references that I used: Body Awareness for Beginners, the Count Academy, and the Shield's Reliability and Validity. And I'm actually missing one. I apologize for that. The journal article for kinesthetic endpoints for the neuroscience in the 21st century. So that should be added here as well. So let me see here. One other thing I wanted to share was one of my assignments. Okay, so we should be good there. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Looks small on my end, so I apologize if, oh, sorry about that. Let me try that one more time here. Okay, well, it's just gonna have to stay that size. I apologize. I tried to make it bigger. That didn't quite work out. Okay. Um, Third time's the charm here. Okay. All right, so the body awareness homework assignment, this is actually a discussion post that I used for the online environment. However, you can easily adapt this assignment and just make it a homework assignment and remove the discussion post at the top. So I had the students perform at least one body awareness activity this week. So they had to do something that we talked about in class. This could be the deep breathing exercises, the balancing exercises, previously in the class, I had provided meditation videos. We did a whole exercise segment on yoga and Pilates as well. So they had all of those resources too, so they knew where to find them and what I expected the 30-minute videos for them to perform. So they already had that expectation. And any kind of physical exercise. And I told them they had to share which activity they completed and then include if they were able to identify how their body was feeling, not only just physically, but mentally as well, and emotionally. So we're linking all three of those things, right? The feeling, the mentally, the physically, and emotionally prior to the activity, and how you felt completing the activity. Did you notice a difference in any one of those three areas? And is this activity something you routinely do? And if not, would you like to? Is this something you could see yourself doing at least twice a week or 3 times a week? And if so, how could you incorporate this into your life? Again, this was a discussion post, but this could easily be adapted as a homework assignment. So post your initial discussion, then reply to another classmate's post to provide a meaningful discussion. And I find that students will often learn from each other. So if somebody tried, yoga or Pilates, and they typically, do perform yoga exercises or whatever, but they found Pilates was more challenging. I've noticed in the online environment that several students had tried things based upon other student suggestions. So in class, whenever they turned these assignments in, and we had discussed this as a group, we just kind of led a class discussion just to see. And a lot of students did notice that their mental state and emotional state improved after exercise. Very few students actually commented on the physical capabilities. Now, some did report after doing the yoga exercise that they were sore in Pilates, but otherwise it was pretty rewarding to see that mentally and emotionally that they had showed great improvement with what we talked about. Some students at the end of the semester actually said that the mindful breathing exercises helped them the most. And the body scan exercise, they actually taught some of their kids to do, or their children. I had 2 students that taught their children to do the body scan exercises to help improve sleep as well. So I do think some of what I'm sharing with you is very valuable information, but I am available throughout the semester if you have any questions or comments regarding this information, or if you want to talk to me ahead of me coming out and doing the observation visits, feel free to do so. My contact information is mpercinski@pennhighlands.edu. I do not have an office phone line anymore, so the best way to reach me is via email. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and thank you for your time.